One of the best analogies I've heard in reference to the evolution of our understanding of what spirituality is about was given by Mellon Thomas Benedict, who is a person who had a beyond near-death experience. He actually was dead for a while, some minutes, and had a lot of interesting travels during that brief period of time. And he came back with a lot of wisdom. One of the things he said was that our attempts to understand the true nature of spirituality have been similar to the process of learning to fly. I think most people have seen old film footage of early attempts to create airplanes and these little contraptions with the flapping wings or spinning things on top, and they end up collapsing upon themselves. And then eventually we learned how to fly, how to create helicopters and airplanes, and that this is similar to what we're going through with spirituality. I mean, look at where we came from. We really were very primitive, and we were, we come from early primate ape-like creatures with small brains, and we keep on evolving, and we keep on growing and understanding things more and more. And our ego wants to say at any given point in history, we've got it all figured out. But we can always look back 100 years, 200 years, and see how much we've learned. And this is going to continue to be the case. And so a lot of the confusion that we have now about what is religious or spiritual truth will become more clear as we continue to progress. But eventually we're going to figure this stuff out. And one of the things that I believe is happening right now is that the internet is breaking down people's illusions of oneness in terms of belief systems, and breaking down illusions of being the only way and the superior way of perceiving reality. In other words, if you were living in the past in your little community with a bunch of people that thought the same way, then you could easily project that onto the world. And yes, you're aware that there are other people around the world that don't think the same, but they're just kind of ignorant and third world or whatever. You just write them off when you're not challenged, and you take comfort in this little belief system that you possess about what is religious and spiritual truth. And the history of humanity has been one of decentralizing. I mean, we used to think that the earth was the center of the universe, and then we started realizing that the sun does not rotate around the earth rotates around the sun. And then we started to realize that there are many other galaxies, and that this is just an incredibly expansive humanity. I mean, beyond humanity, where it is an expansive universe. And there's also been the disillusionment in terms of understanding how we operate on a psychological level. The insights that came from Freud and other of his contemporaries in terms of our unconscious impulses and motivations. And so realizing that we are not just simply the center of the universe controlling our destiny, but we have a lot of other things going on around us and within us that we're trying to get a hold of it all. And for myself, I was an atheist for my first 29 years of life, and then I started realizing there were some spiritual things going on in the world. Using tarot cards helped me to start to understand patterns of synchronicity, and just then I started witnessing synchronicity in everyday life, and reading Conversations with God was powerful. Contemporary books like that, and Celestine Prophecy, and also Eckhart Tolle started to help me understand there can be a kind of spirituality without dogma. I was really disgusted with religion, watching televangelists and getting different perspectives while growing up on a lot of Christian belief systems that I thought were or ignorant and self-righteous. And what I believe now is that a lot of organized religious ideology that comes from ancient text, a lot of people are just kind of ignoring the bad parts, ignoring the parts that are more judgmental and ignorant. And, you take Christianity and Islam, both of them have a propensity towards stoning adulterers. And people, for the most part, tend to ignore that. And if they don't, then it's pretty big news. And I think that it creates a kind of schism when you are saying that you follow some kind of text, but you at the same time are ignoring parts of it. And you have to ignore parts of these texts, these religious texts, to avoid being an ignorant, self-righteous person. So the texts aren't likely to change, although, it has been said that many religious texts have been changed over time. People would notice it now. It's not just, having some kind of royalty, behind the scenes kind of things, and then give it to the masses and nobody questions it. Everybody would notice if you rewrote the Bible and the Quran now to remove the self-righteous components, because they are both self-righteous, and a lot of these individuals, Christians and Muslims, might be triggered by each other, especially in the extremist realm, those people who are more extremist and take things literally in terms about how they are the one right way, and I think unconsciously they may trigger each other because they're so similar. So what has to happen, I believe, is that little by little, each new generation will question the dogma of the various rigid suppositions of these texts, and continue to form their own ideas, think for themselves, see what really works, because there is a lot of ridiculous dogma that just keeps people ignorant. Like in Christianity, there's supposedly this concept of judge not, yet ye be judged, and yet so many Christians are wrapped up in judgment, and they're not getting the teachings. They judge gay people, and they judge people who believe differently than they do, because underlying this lesson of non-judgment is a lesson of superiority. Believe a certain way or go to hell. And that's a pretty strong message. So I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that you don't have to choose atheism or religion. You have to just discern for yourself what is real. And there are a lot of underlying spiritual things going on in the world. Synchronicity is a very bizarre and mystical experience that cannot be explained logically, and yet it happens if you're open to it. If you are not open to it, you won't notice it. If you want to believe everything is linear, then that's the world that you'll experience. But open-mindedness will help you see what is really going on, and we can continue as a species to grow and evolve and try to figure out what is true, getting rid of all the dogma and rigid ideologies about good and bad and all that. See what is true. This is our destiny, is to continue to see what is true. And as we grow and become more interconnected on this planet and bump into ideas that are different than our own, we can face them with judgment or understanding. A lot of people, when they run up to things that are different, they confront it with hatred, and they put a lot of energy in towards saying why it's wrong. And I've been reflecting on why is it that there's just this kind of self-protective tendency and hatred response to difference that is so common. And I think that it has kind of biological roots, and as tribal beings, as our, we can look to chimpanzees and gorillas and stuff to see what our kind of more genetic roots and tendencies are. And when you have a tribe that is protecting its limited resources, then anyone else that's different that's coming into that is considered a threat for the most part. And so they are met as a threat would be met, with violence and hatred and vitriol and these kinds of, more harsh energies. So I think that our challenge as spiritual evolving people is to look at the judgments that we have and focus more upon understanding where did people's belief systems come from. In probably over 90% of the cases of people that have rigid religious ideology, it's clear that they just inherited them from their family. It's not like they went out to library, a diverse library at the age of 10 and did a lot of research and decided this seems to be the most truthful way of being. No, it's about following the way of the family. And in general, any kind of evolution that occurs on the level of humanity is going to require people breaking away and going beyond where their parents were able to go. There's just no way evolution can occur if you put a kind of glass ceiling upon your awareness that cannot go beyond the thoughts and beliefs of your family. And if you have a family who's open-minded, they want you to go beyond them. Like any true master, the student is desired to go beyond the master, because that's how evolution works.